SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biztalk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biztalk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biztalk on WHBY.
Good morning and welcome to Biztalk with SCORE on WHBY. I'm Rick Sentz along with Kerri Futch this week. And Terry, I'm guessing you finally got your bike out.
The bike is out. It went on the first trip. It was a short one, only a couple miles. But I realized after all the repair work and tuning that was done that I need to do some more to get it suited for me. So I'm going to do that this afternoon.
All right. Well, that's good. That take advantage of the opportunity while we have this beautiful time of year. It's always such a great time of year in May to get the bike out and running around on it. So,
Yep.
Well, I'm very excited today about our guests. I do know them by way of disclosure. I've known them for a little while now. But they have a very unique business, and I wanted to have them on to be able to share that with listeners out here in Northeast Wisconsin. Our guests are Jon Woelfel and Kerri Futch. They're the owners of Wolf and Fox Winery at Woelfel Homestead. And if we could start with maybe just an explanation of what is the title with the Woelfel Homestead piece of it, maybe as a way to get our discussion going this morning.
Well, I should start with the wolf and the fox. The wolf is on the Woelfel crest or coat of arms, and the fox is on Kerri's.
Yeah, my last name is Futch, and so my family coat of arms had a fox on it. So that's the name where we got the Wolf and Fox Winery name. But we do have the Woelfel Homestead attached to that business because we are on a 6th-generation family farm that was settled in 1855 in Jon's family. So it's an important historical homestead and barn, and so there was no way that we were ever going to change the name of the homestead. So it's going to be attached to the winery. The winery has its own identity, but that's why both.
So that tells me that there's more than just the winery there then, if you have it. One has an identity, and you mentioned there's a different identity here. Do you maybe just want to give a quick overview, and we'll come back to more of that a little bit later, but maybe to give listeners some background on that.
Yeah, there's such a strong agricultural history with the homestead here. It used to be a dairy farm for over a century, and so to be able to come in and plant grapes and keep that strong agricultural sense of place here going was very important to us.
But in addition to the grapes and the winery, you also have other things happening at the venue?
Yes, we do. So we're partnering with other producers and growers and farmers. So right now we have a farmer that we work with, Austin and Kristen Pedon, who raise pastured sheep on the back 40. And lambing season is almost over, so we're going to be getting some of the ewes and lambs on site pretty soon. We also partnered with a local beekeeper. So we have bees on the property. We have some free range laying hens. So there's a lot going on besides the grapes and the wine. So we're a winery. We're also an event venue. So we have weddings, parties, corporate events, all sorts of things, live music happening here as well.
So I noticed there something came over the internet the other day about your music acts having won some awards. You maybe just want to spend a few moments talking about the musical acts that you have coming and then I'll start getting back to the actual list of questions that I had prepared. So.
Sure. So our vision early on when we were writing our business plan, ironically included that section to support local music and musicians. We love music. We wanted our venue to be a place for musicians who are touring, who are writing original music, who enhance our community in those ways. So we're happy to welcome in lots of local acts two of which we just found out. There might be more, but I just found out one, the Wisconsin Area Music Industry Awards. So one of them is 7,000 Apart, and the other one is Aaron Krebs. So we're happy to be part of their success too, and to share what they're doing with anybody who comes to the winery.
And you have a schedule set for the year, so if people are interested, they could go check that out on Facebook.
Yeah. So we post on Instagram and on our Facebook page. So Wolf and Fox Winery on Facebook, and then our Instagram handle is Wolf and Fox Wine at Wolf and Fox Wine. So that's where you'll find our band poster that lists all of the bands and the dates that they'll be playing.
Okay. So what led to the decision to basically go with grapes that became the focus of your future? Can you maybe walk listeners through that process?
So for about 16 years, I was in the wine industry back west in California. And when we decided to move back here, we were excited by the possibility and the potential for being able to have our own winery and vineyard on the homestead. So making that dream come true was like a big part of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I think that it was natural for us. I was, when we were in California, it was something we talked about a lot and couldn't quite figure out how to do there. The startup costs, it's a high capital startup, and everything on the West Coast, all signs pointed towards lots and lots of deep pockets that we just didn't have. So when we were given the opportunity here in Wisconsin to purchase the farm from Jon's folks, we jumped on that chance. We're slowly purchasing pieces as we go, and building the business in a bare bones sort of way, because it's slow, it's steady, but I feel like slow and steady can still win the race. You know what I mean?
Calumet County is an interesting place for growing grapes. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that, how the soil rates and what kind of grapes you have to plant and things like that?
Well, fortunately, over the last 20 years or so, there's been a development of hybridized grapes that are cold hardy. They'll survive in sub-zero temperatures. Vines that you won't really see, like all the California varietals or outside the European varietals that just wouldn't survive a cold Wisconsin winter. And so having these grapes available and knowing that they'll survive here, and along with the fertile soil and everything else that the land can provide, it's been really
yeah, we have great sandy loam soil. I mean, we benefit from what the other farmers are benefiting from here. We have great soil. I think that we have some lime in our soil, which grapevines like. They don't like wet feet, so all of our vineyard is planted north-south on the high ridge. We have a ridge on the farm, so we're taking advantage of what's naturally here. And so far, so good. I should knock on wood, but our vines are thriving. We did have a little bit of loss that first year when they were very young, but what we have now, they look great, and so we feel fortunate about that.
We're always at the mercy of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
The seasons, a dry year, a wet year, and so
just like all the other farmers.
It's still farming.
Mm-hmm. 22 years ago or 23 years ago, when I moved back here moved here, there were very few wineries in Wisconsin. One that I can think of, probably more, but not many, and you didn't know about them. And now you're starting to hear more and more about people coming up with wines, and the wines are getting better. And there's a lot of interest in Wisconsin wines. How do you go about learning about that Wisconsin part of the wine business you had the basics in place easily and more from California. How did you learn about the Wisconsin side?
Just experiencing it.
Yeah.
Going back to my California times, I learned from the cellar up. So I started in the cellar, and just through years of experience, I was able to develop a palate, develop my senses with what I knew to be quality wine and winemaking, and I think that with the internet and resources that are more readily available online, Zooming, being able to take online courses and classes, I think there's so much more available to everyone and anyone that wants to start a winery and make wine. And we're seeing that come to fruition with, as you said, that the quality is getting better across the board, not just, here, it's all over the country in each region. And
yeah, and specifically with like vineyard stuff, I know that we really leaned on the university ag departments, the horticulture ones that were doing the research on these cold hardy varietals. That's how we started to find out what were the grapes, what were the ones that could grow here, and then additionally going out seeking those that were in bottle that other wineries were producing to figure out what the flavor profiles were, what we wanted to provide, what we thought we could make into a dry style or a sweet style or a semi. So part of the fun about wine is the experimentation, but for us, the fun begins in the vineyard, making sure that the vines are surviving and thriving. And then once we have those great grapes that we can turn into great wine, and then start creating blends, then it gets really fun. But yeah, I mean, the Wisconsin, culturally, the wine industry is really different in Wisconsin from, what we've experienced. And that just speaks to, there's a whole, industry in California that, it's known to be a huge destination for wine, whereas I think that's still in development in Wisconsin. And we have some of those big wineries that came before us to thank for paving the way. Wineries like Von Steele and Wollersheim. They gave us hope that, hey, we can do something here and it can be great too.
Well, and you also look at, I was just thinking about it today, even the California wine industry, like it's only been in my lifetime that it's been recognized as a top growing region and producer of fine wines. It was going back to the 70s, and then it just grew from there. So, I see Wisconsin as
there's so much potential.
It's on the same path. I mean, Oregon was next, and then Washington. Even in the last 20, 30 years, like there was talk of, Oregon, can they actually produce top quality wine? So it can happen and it will happen. It just takes time.
Yeah. Okay. We're at the time where we're going to take our first break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to Biztalk with Score on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense, along with host Terry Pinch, and this morning we are talking to Jon Woelfel and Kerri Futch from Wolf and Fox Winery at Woelfel Homestead. And before we get back to our conversation there, I just want to spend a few moments talking to you about Score Northeast Wisconsin. Score Northeast Wisconsin serves an 18-county area in northeast Wisconsin, plus the county of Menominee in Michigan. We have over 50 volunteers, each an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs no-cost and confidential mentoring. Those experts include areas of like IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, human resources, retail, best practices, and many, many others. In order to register for a no-cost and confidential mentoring session, and or to learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, visit our website at score.org, Northeast Wisconsin. To support small business people, SCORE Northeast Wisconsin is always looking for new mentors. If you have experience that you would like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business. Small business owners need your help, and your experience can make a real difference to their success. Go to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button, and fill out the short application. We'll get back to you to explain more. So thanks again for joining us on Biztalk this morning. Now I'll turn the show back over to you, Terry.
Okay, thanks, Rick. So, Jon and Kerri, as you moved back to Wisconsin and you're starting to think about starting the winery, how did you go about getting the money you needed to make that initial push?
Well, we had been talking about starting a winery for a few years before it happened. So, we both grew up with parents that really drilled home, that savings were important, that were, my mom didn't even have a credit card when I was growing up. So I that's sort of in me and in us as a couple early on. We were, really good at living frugally, saving money. And so when we decided to open the winery, we really wanted to do it in a step-by-step, slow kind of way. So we opted not to go the route of bank loans or investors, unless we absolutely had to. And so far, it's been a great decision for us. Has it taken longer? Yes. Do we do a lot of things ourselves? Yes. But at the same time, if we do have bumps along the way, we know that there's nothing that can be taken from us. So that's a good feeling that we have. Do you have something to add?
And we're both self-motivated to learn. We from doing plumbing to electrical and even vineyard planting. I come from more of a winemaking background, so the viticulture part of it was not something that I was fully, I didn't have a lot of experience with that. So having to learn the varietals that existed here and planting them and how to cultivate them to get a crop that we could successfully make wine from is just another part of the process outside of building and construction, which growing up on the farm, I had a lot of experience with working with equipment and fixing things. It's always been very important to me to just if something's broken, you fix it, don't throw it away.
Yeah, I think that's kind of our ethos here. Raising money, we haven't done any kind of crowdfunding or anything like that. But what we do have and what we're fortunate to have is supportive family that give time, that show up consistently for work days when we do plantings or prunings or things like that. We have a lot of hands on deck. And so we're rich in that way. I would say.
And materials.
Right.
We have over 100 years of collected materials from my grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather that you come to the barn and you're going to see these materials being reused.
Nothing is new. Nothing is new. So we reuse a lot, and that's just the way that we're running the show and how we run our lives and how we run our business.
And it sounds like both in terms of how you've gotten the money to invest in this business, but also the skills and traits that you invest. It's all it's learned from previous experience and from the people that helped you along the way. How important was it to have those experiences in California before coming back here to this success? And not just in the winery, but to a business success.
Well, going back to the winemaking part of it, it definitely gave me the confidence to pursue this here or anywhere. I knew I could make wine. Again, that was a big step to take to move on from back west. And now that I'm here, having that confidence boosts everything, elevates everything else. Cause I know that as soon as we get the infrastructure in, we're going to be happy with the outcome. Like it's all about the process.
Yeah. And for me, I ran a small business. Before this, I was, an early childhood educator when we were in California. We have 2 kids. And, when I, after I had them, I wanted to stay home with them. I figured, well, what kind of business can I create in order to be with my kids? And that was it. And so that was I did that for about a decade. And I learned a lot as a business owner, how to interface with agencies, how to handle, surprise inspections, because I was a licensed childcare provider. And now it's kind of interesting because we have inspectors, we're dealing with vendors and agencies, permits and all sorts of things. So, I think that all of our background, all of our skills have led us to this moment in time. And there's still so much we need to know. I'm sure lots of entrepreneurs can relate to this, is that you're always learning. There's so much to know. And marketing, for example, is a good way that's a good, example of this, is that I feel like what I learned a year ago in terms of marketing is changing now. So that's always changing. And, so I think, just staying curious, and continuing to learn has been our game plan.
Because the laws are constantly changing too,
especially
with when alcohols are involved. So,
okay, excellent. We are at the point where we're going to take our second break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Biztalk. We've been talking with Jon and Kerri from Wolf and Fox Winery. And before we get back to Jon and Kerri, I have an education update to give you. There's a couple things we want to mention here. First of all, tomorrow there's a small business academy going to be held at Fox Valley Technical College at the Bordini Center, and it's presented by the Venture Center, and SCORE is involved in that too. And it's a morning event where we've got there's 3 panels to help people as they start up their businesses. So this is Small Business Week across the USA, and this is the areas activity. Again, a panel discussion, but there's one on getting started as an entrepreneur, another on connecting with local resources, so what's available for businesses in the area, and a third on marketing strategies. And they have a combination of educational and people with business experience and other experts to come and talk to you. So again, that's the Small Business Academy. It's free, and you can go and attend at the Bordini Center at Fox Valley Technical College. The other thing I want to mention is a topic that's kind of in the news a lot right now, and it's a webinar, an online event that we have coming up. So if you go to our website, it's score.org /Northeast Wisconsin, and you click on the workshops and events, you're able to search upcoming events, and one of them that's coming up is how tariffs can impact your small business and how to prepare. So that's May 20th at 12 o'clock Central Time. It's an online live event, and usually they're out as webinars later on in a week or two after, but it's a live event for May 20th at 12 o'clock. So again, it's score.org /Northeast Wisconsin. Click on the workshops and events tab, and you can search and find the how tariffs can impact your small business seminar. So with that, Rick, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right. Thanks, Terry. Jon and Kerri, we talked a little bit earlier about how Wisconsin has emerged as a winemaking area in the country. Could you maybe talk a little bit about how Wisconsin rates in that winemaking world right now?
Well, I look at it from the perspective of in California, there's this mentality of it's tried and true and tradition, what works and sticking to it. And that can go only so far as we're seeing right now with the state of the industry. There's difficulty with getting new wine drinkers out because there's a stigma attached to wine. And I think that in Wisconsin, there's more of an adventurous kind of spirit behind winemaking and other alcoholic beverages, or just the industry in itself. Like there's more people are willing to take more risks here, I think. And I think that's really benefiting Wisconsin wineries. It's benefiting us for sure.
What kind of risks are people in Wisconsin taking compared to California or other locations?
Well, we're getting these cold hardy hybrids, and because they are kind of new on the market, I think there's a lot more development that is I don't want to say experiment, but I mean it kind of is experimenting with what some of these varietals can be, how you can blend them and create these wonderful wines. And in the end, I think it just creates this diversity and stylistic approaches to wines, and that you might not get in other regions, because let's say if you have a Cabernet from Napa, you want to make sure that your Cabernet tastes like Napa Cabernet, because that's what's expected. There's the expectation here is a little bit less so, because it's hard to have an expectation on something that is relatively new.
Yeah, I mean, we have our work cut out for us. We're growing 5 different new hybrid varietals, and then we're going to be planting 3 more this weekend. And most people don't know what these grapes are. Everybody kind of knows what Chardonnay or Pinot Noir or Cabernet Sauvignon, but they don't know what like Frontenac or the Crescent or Marquette or Clarion. These are varietals that aren't as well known, and it's our job, if we're doing our job properly, to educate the public and say, this is what Wisconsin wines are. Isn't it delicious? Because they are. And so I think we're like the country's best kept secret, and there's only potential to go up from here in terms of Wisconsin's,
outreach, and
right.
That's where
yeah. And I think the more people know about the fabulous wines that we're producing here, I think it's only going to get better and better over time.
What lessons have you brought back from California as you both have moved forward here, being the entrepreneurial mindset that you guys obviously have? What have you learned that you've brought forward and are applying to the business today?
Wine should be fun. Wine should not be pretentious or exclusive. Wine, and that's what Wisconsin is doing right. People are having fun with it. They're experimenting. There's new trends coming out with wine that people are trying, that we're, some of it we're a little bit, I'm not sure. But I think that adventurous spirit is what I've learned to embrace. And like I tell people in the tasting room, don't think you ought to like a certain style or type of wine. Let's leave the pretentiousness out of it and just drink what you like and have fun with it, and keep trying, try different wines from different regions. That's what wine is about. It's about enjoying yourself and sharing.
You mentioned the fact earlier that you're going to be having some more vines that are going to be planted this weekend. Could you maybe talk a little bit about the timeline that is around that process from the planting all the way to the first wine that you're able to derive from those grapes?
Right. So we planted our first acre, about 900 vines, 4 years ago. Vines typically take about 3 to 5 years to produce enough fruit to make any kind of substantial amount of wine. And then, but you're also throughout that time period, you don't know what you're going to get, curveballs from Mother Nature. And like within a year, went through a drought. The next year we had a lot more rain than is typical for the summer. And so, yeah, our vines, even though they should be coming online this year, I don't know if they'll produce as much as we had hoped because of these natural events. And but they're growing. It's just about patience at this point and accepting that.
So after the grapes are done, then we harvest the grapes. We destem them, we crush them, we have punch downs for fermentation, and then we monitor. Then some of the wines will go into barrel aging, and some of them will stay in stainless steel. And then we'll determine through rigorous, quality control and testing when it's time to bottle and release them. So that could be, this is a process that can take, 8 months to a year.
2 years.
Well, depending on if it's age. Yeah. If it's going to be our full bodied red, it'll be more like 2 years in barrel.
So from a production side, then what are you doing to keep pace with that? I mean, are you expanding as we're talking here, or are you just kind of, let's sit back and wait for the grapes to come in? What's the process like right now for that?
So we do, since we've been here, we've been reaching out to other vineyard owners. And, for instance, last year we took in about a ton of this cold hardy red varietal Petite Pearl from a neighbor over by Lake Winnebago by Stockbridge. So we do have that luxury to all these other vineyard owners in the area. They can provide grapes for us to get rolling while our vineyard is still maturing.
Yeah, so we can produce what I'm going to call regional wines from the Wisconsin WHBY if we source fruit from our neighbors around us, but then our estate wine will be from all the vineyard on the property here. So we're looking forward to having both, and also we're going to continue to source from some select vineyards on the West Coast as well, since we have those connections. So we'll have a little bit of a lot.
Mm-hmm. And obviously weather's been a challenge. I mean, the unpredictability of the climate and how things have come and gone with the drought one year, too much rain the next year. What other challenges, though, from beyond Mother Nature's curveballs? What other things are you dealing with as you move forward?
Well, there will be animal impact. Birds are a big issue with vineyards, so we'll be having to purchase bird netting. So there's a lot of expenses going into just protecting your crop. Mildew is constant, especially with the humidity here in Wisconsin. It was something that they had to deal with back west as well, even though it's a drier climate, but it's, I think it's just more so here. But a lot of these hybrids have been developed to, have a higher threshold to handling that.
Yeah, and I would say some other business specific challenges have been just, you don't know what you don't know, right? As a new entrepreneur, there was a lot we had to learn and learn quickly. And so we relied a lot on our mentors, at SCORE and other people around us who were, great at the aspects of business that we needed to learn. And we're still doing it. I mean, we're still really every day, in it and learning new things.
So being newer to the business world from the standpoint with the winery. And if you run into folks that are thinking of starting a business or just starting out, what advice that would you give them from things that you've learned already, Kerri?
Yeah, find the people that are nailing it and find mentors, find people that, if like I'll just use myself as an example. We weren't on social media before we started our business. And that was a real hindrance to us because not only did we need to figure it all out, we needed to figure it out quickly and, while opening the doors. And so, I think that just being, able to be vulnerable, being able to, ask for help when you need it. I know that's been a challenge. We tend to be really private and want to figure it out ourselves, but it came to a point where it was like, no, we don't need to spin our wheels. Like this is knowable stuff. Somebody else knows this. Let's find our people. And when we did, it was so much easier, not having to reinvent the wheel. So finding those around you that can support and also being yourself, like we don't have it all together. And we know that, we have to keep a sense of humor about our business and our life. And, you mentioned challenge. I think that if you're an adventurous person, and you want challenges and you're okay with challenge, start a business with your spouse. That's my advice. I feel like that there's a personal growth element that we're, constantly refining with each other. And, I think that goes into that bigger picture. This is a lifestyle business for us. This is long term for us. So it's worth it to put in that work. It's worth it.
And I just want to let listeners know that both of you smiled when you brought up the conversation starter there about having a business as a couple. And how has that impacted your marriage? Because there are a lot of people out there that maybe don't start a business because that's maybe a hindrance to them. What would you tell them? I
think we have to have we have to have a sense of humor, and luckily we do. We have to create a balance, and sometimes we just have to stop work and know when to put on the mom or the wife hat and when to take the coworker hat off. And we don't always nail that, but we're trying to get better at it because we know that we have to, if we're going to continue
It helps as a couple to know that you have a shared vision.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's probably the most important thing, because we might have differing ideas on how to get to that vision, the end point, but knowing that in the end it is what we want. Like maybe there's a part of the process that your partner may want done sooner than you. You have to be able to compromise, like any marriage, you know, it's really, but communication, and in all honesty, like I'm not the best communicator. So it's something that I have to constantly work on. And through that though, it's just making everything stronger for our business. Like we're both behind the bar when people show up, and we tag team and know our strengths as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're kind of in that gray area before a break, but just real quickly, are you guys having fun?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
It is super fun. It's a lot of hard work, but it's so fun.
And
has it met your expectations?
Yes, it's exceeded my expectations on some level, because I look around and I'm like, look at what we built. This is amazing. And it is. It is.
Yeah. It's really helpful to step back and see how far we've come in 4 years, because I often do look at what we haven't done and that can be, a struggle sometimes. And so, you got to take a step back and really look at the past achievements and I feel proud about it. So definitely.
Okay. We're going to take our final break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back for our last segment.
Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense along with Terry Pinch, and today we're talking with Jon and Kerri from Wolf and Fox Winery at Woelfel Homestead in, I believe it's Chilton or New Holstein. Must be New Holstein over there, right?
Holstein address, yeah.
Yeah, New Holstein. Okay. And before we get back to more of the program, I'd just like to take a moment to thank our sponsors and donors who bring Biz Talk with Score to you each weekend. We certainly couldn't present Biz Talk without their generous support. Thank you to Hailing & Associates. Hailing & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan ahead, helping you minimize taxes for this year and beyond. Hailing & Associates, personal connection, positive results. Thank you to Johnson Financial Group. Wherever you are in your life or in the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works with you to understand your goals, matching the right banking and wealth services to help you complete your mission. Thanks to the Business News for promoting our program in the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. The paper is delivered biweekly and contains relevant and useful information about the business community in Northeast Wisconsin. We would also like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation in support of Biz Talk and Score Northeast Wisconsin. So, Jon and Kerri, if people want to learn more, where can they go to find out more information about Wolf and Fox Winery?
Well, the best place is our website, which is wolfandfoxwinery.com. It's just all spelled out. And other places to find us are on our social media platform. So we're on Instagram. So it's at Wolf and Fox Wine is how you find us on Instagram. And then we're also on Facebook. So if you just do a search for Wolf and Fox Winery, we should pop up on Facebook as well. So that's where we post most of what's happening. So the events that are coming up, and it's really exciting because right now we have, like I said earlier, a full lineup of barn concerts planned for Saturdays, pretty much every Saturday in the summer. We have live music, and we also have, we're really fortunate to have some artists come in and teach painting workshops. So we have some paint and sip artists. I have an artist that's coming to do some merit badges. She's doing embroidery, so you can sign up for that. I have an artist who does custom hat making, where you can design your own hat to take home with you. So lots of make and take type things happening here at the farm. In the fall, we're going to be having some chef and winemaker dinners where we pair food with wine and just talk a little bit more in depth about wine production and farm to table food. So that's happening closer to, I have one in July and one in the fall. And then we're going to be partnering with more, like what I'm going to call off-site, chefs that are going to be coming on site to provide food, different types of food to be paired with wine. So I have somebody coming in for all of our barn concerts to provide food since we don't have a commercial kitchen yet. So that'll be really fun to come and experience food, wine, entertainment, all the things. We also are a place that can house and host corporate events. So we have had employee parties here. In fact, Vern's Cheese in Chilton and now Green Bay had their employee party here. And we're looking to kind of ramp up our corporate events and corporate retreats offerings. So we have tables, chairs, a full bar, great acoustics, all the things that you would need for corporate events. So lots of things going on.
All right. And I just want to thank you again for taking the time to join us today. I've been out to the farm, and it's just a great experience for our listeners who are looking for a nice, relaxing evening with live music, great conversation. It's a great place to spend, especially on those perfect summer nights that we get in Wisconsin. So thank you both again, Jon and Kerri, for being on the show today. Wish you much luck as you continue working forward and planting this weekend as well. And you're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. If you like what you heard today, remember the podcast will be available midweek, so you can listen to this episode again or many of the other episodes that are available right now through our podcast through Buzzsprout or any of the other podcatchers or podcast applications out there. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.